everybody, welcome back to another layout update. We've got a lot to get into this week, so we'll hop right in. As you can see here, there's two locomotives sitting in front of me. This is the first thing I want to talk about. I've got a couple of finished projects here. The first one is Finger Lakes 1989 there in the background. This is a locomotive that already was on the layout, but a couple months after I finished the project, this being actually a couple of years ago at this point, one of the ditch lights blew. So it's been running around without a ditch light, not leading trains for almost 2 years. And I finally decided to pull it off the layout, open it up, and replace the ditch light that was blown just last week. And so it's as you can see in the intro, it's now back fully in service and ready to go. The locomotive in front of it here, though, is a different story. This was a much bigger project than the 1989 was. 2305 is one of the Finger Lakes ex-Southern high hood units that's on the roster. And those ex-Southern high hoods, of course, have had their noses chopped down so that they appear somewhat similar to a regular B23-7. But the big difference between them is actually the nose itself. As you can see on 1989, there's a little compartment there that would have held a low nose headlight if whoever originally ordered the B23 would have ordered it that way. On 2305, because it's a chop nose, they actually don't have that little module there, basically, because on the chop nose they just deleted that entirely when they did that work. So in order to replicate that, I filed down the housing that was there and made the nose of the locomotive just appear smooth, or as smooth as I could. 2305 also has grab irons up the front side of the locomotive, so I've replicated those as best I can as well, along with some custom LED ditch lights, pilot mounted. Those are using Scale Sound Systems housings. And then there's a bunch of warning label decal work, custom relabel or renumber, and then the cab itself also has to get repainted on these when I do the renumbering a lot of times, just because Atlas stock numbering is a bit difficult to get off. So that cab's been freshly painted as well. The sill itself was an undecked sill that I had to order in and paint black, of course, because the 2301 that this was a donor for had the anti-climber sill that 1989 has, and the prototype ex-Southern units have the non-anti-climber sill, so that's been replaced on there as well. But enough of the really nerdy specifics here. We'll go check out the rest of what's new on the layout. So the B-23s aren't the only locomotive that's new on the roster. We also picked up this Athearn Genesis flared SD70M from a buddy in a trade. This thing came to me with ESU lock sound already installed and with LEDs already installed. It has a couple of issues with flickering lights and cutting out power, so I took it apart and tried to clean it up as best I could, and I'm still having the issues. So I'm going to have to get that figured out eventually, but I am looking forward to having a little bit bigger power on the layout for the H06 job as well. All right, so the first big change to the layout honestly might not even be that noticeable, but the Geneva yard here has actually been lengthened out by a couple of feet. I found myself having not a ton of room in the yard, unfortunately, and kind of having to cap the capacity of my road trains just because of the space in the yard. So a simple change was put into effect, and it gave me a lot more space to work with. All I did is move the switch that's the throat of the yard from this side of the engine track, so it was here, down to here, and that gave me space for probably 8 to 10 more cars, which is a pretty significant amount on this short line layout. Obviously, when you're talking about a big class 1 layout, that's really not a ton of space, but for us here, that's the difference between being able to serve some of these industries at a more prototypical capacity than I'd be able to if that wasn't the case. So All right, and here's the biggest news on the layout. We've actually got the entirety of the trackage in for the Auburn area now. This was the last section of track work that needed to be put in order for the bench work that's been built right now to have every single industry it's planned to have ready to operate. So I'll take you through what we've got here, just so that you can see what we've got. The first industry up here is Auburn Metal Processing, and you'll remember last layout update we talked about the car here on the right-hand side with the prototype load in it. This RMLX scrap gun. This will be the destination for that car on the layout. It'll come out of here as a load, I should say. But they take scrap cars in there. I'll plan on eventually doing 2 in, 2 out. For right now, it'll be 1 in, 1 out, 1 load, 1 empty, these 2 cars here. And then behind it here, we have what I'm basically using as Auburn Yard. We're being a little bit creative here as far as the yard itself is concerned. The yard is actually technically a passing siding and kind of what some might consider my continuous running main on this second track here. But as far as operations are concerned, this lift out actually is never going to need to come down during an operating session once we have all of our track work complete. So this is really just going to function as a trailing point to track yard as far as that's concerned. And the cars we have here are just 2 bay cars that go to an industry that unfortunately just do not have the space to model on the layout. Owens, Illinois. It's a glass manufacturer in Auburn. So rather than modeling the facility, which I didn't have the space for, we're just going to kind of model the traffic in and out of Auburn Yard, even though actually the traffic goes into a siding closer to Owens, Illinois, rather than in Auburn Yard, but we make do with what we have. And then the third industry here in Auburn is, of course, Nucor Steel as well, which is the rebar manufacturer that we talked about in last layout update when I finished up these prototype loads. So there'll be probably 3 or 4 cars in and out of this facility as well as soon as I've got enough rolling stock in place. For now, it's probably going to be 1 or 2 in and out each session. So, but yeah, that's what we've got as far as updates this week. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you have any thoughts down in the comment section, and be sure to like and subscribe as well. And we'll see you in the next one, guys. Take care.